Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going deep on something today that I'm sure a lot of you are dealing with. Teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
And how to parent them.
Huh.
We're diving into this book all about raising adolescents. And even the title is kind of a head scratcher. It's in Mandarin.
Okay.
It's R.
I see.
And that translates to subtraction parenting.
Subtraction parenting. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. It really makes you think, right? Like, what does that even mean? Less is more.
Yeah, it seems to go against all the, advice out there to do more for your kids, especially during these really important years.
Exactly. And that's kind of what drew me to this book in the first place.
Yeah.
It's not your typical parenting advice. And this book just jumps right in.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
You got the communication breakdowns, those academic struggles, the worries about tech addiction, which I think every parent is dealing with these days, all that social media anxiety.
Yeah.
It even gets into early romantic interests.
Wow, that is comprehensive.
It is.
It sounds like it really recognizes that, adolescence is this complicated thing.
Oh, absolutely.
For both the teenagers and the parents.
And the author actually starts off the book with this story about a mom who's just at her wit's end.
Oh, no.
Her teenager is constantly on his phone. He barely talks.
Oh, God.
And it's like he's become a completely different person.
I think a lot of parents out there can probably relate to that.
I know I can.
Yeah, that feeling of disconnect.
Yes.
It's something I hear a lot from parents. How do we explain that gap that appears between parents and teenagers?
And one of the first things this book kind of tackles is this idea that adolescence isn't just this set period between 12 and 18 anymore.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's stretching out sometimes even into a person's 20s.
The whole extended adolescence thing. We are seeing a lot more of that these days. I wonder if it's all the societal shifts that are playing a role.
The book gets into that.
Okay.
Like higher education.
Yeah.
The fact that a lot of young people are financially independent later in life.
Right. It takes longer to get on your feet these days.
And just the world being a much more complicated place
it's true.
than it used to be.
So it's not just our kids being difficult.
Right.
There are bigger things happening that are shaping them.
Exactly. And it makes it so much harder for parents.
Yeah.
Because how do you know when to hold on and when to let go?
Right. When is it time to step back?
How do you support a young adult who's still trying to find their place, but also needs to learn how to be independent?
That's the balance, isn't it?
And that's where the book introduces this analogy that I absolutely love. The donut theory.
The donut theory.
Yes. For understanding teenagers.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this donut theory.
All right, so picture a donut.
Okay. A donut.
You got that soft, doughy center.
Delicious.
Yes. The book refers to that as the do.
Okay.
Which means the teenager's true intentions. Their good heart.
Yeah.
Deep down.
Deep down.
They want to do well. They want to make their loved ones proud.
I agree. I think most teenagers aren't trying to cause problems on purpose.
Right.
They really do have good intentions, even if it doesn't always seem like that.
And then you have the outer layer of the donut.
Okay.
The glazy, the sprinkles.
I see.
That's what the book calls the do.
Okay.
It's the face they show to the world. And that's where we see all those behaviors that drive us parents crazy, like the eye rolls.
The eye rolls.
The silence, that indifference.
They don't care about anything.
Exactly.
So that outer layer represents those difficult behaviors, the ones that really create that disconnect.
And the book's point is that this outer shell is often a defense mechanism.
That's interesting.
It's how teenagers cope with feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
Misunderstood.
Or judged all the time. Like a shield they put up to protect themselves.
Right.
Especially when they're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out who they are and where they fit in.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a reminder to us as parents that under that sometimes prickly exterior is that soft, well-intentioned center.
We have to remember that good heart is still in there.
Absolutely.
So we have to look past the frustration.
Yes.
And really try to understand what's going on underneath those behaviors.
Exactly.
What emotions are they dealing with? What are they struggling with?
And the book gives this great example.
Okay.
Imagine a teenager who's seemingly glued to their phone.
Oh, I know that one.
24/7, right? It's so easy to jump to conclusions.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're being lazy or defiant.
Right.
But what if they're actually using that phone to cope with the pressures of school or their social life?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just overwhelmed by the constant flow of information.
It could be that the online world feels safer to them.
Yeah.
More controllable than real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that the teenage brain is still developing.
Right.
They're wired for that instant gratification. Mm-hmm. And they haven't quite mastered that whole long-term planning thing yet.
So it's not about excusing the behavior.
Right.
But understanding where it's coming from.
Yes.
We need to see the why behind the what before we can actually address it.
And to help parents do just that, this book lays out a really practical 3-step approach.
Okay, a 3-step approach.
For handling those everyday conflicts that we all have with our teenagers.
Oh, lay it on me. What are the steps?
The first step is all about focused communication.
Focused communication?
And this one might surprise you.
Okay.
It's about keeping those lectures short and sweet.
Short and sweet?
2 minutes max.
Interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah, I can see how those long, drawn-out lectures could backfire.
Oh, totally.
Especially when we're, coming at them with all those emotions.
Yeah.
Teenagers just tune out when they feel cornered or overwhelmed.
Exactly. The book suggests that we focus on delivering, key points really calmly and clearly.
So it's quality over quantity.
Yes.
Meeting them where they are and, respecting their ability to actually process what we're saying.
Exactly.
Because they might not be ready for, the whole big picture lecture.
Right. Instead of saying, you need good grades to get into a good college.
Which honestly feels like a lifetime away to them.
Right. You could try something like, if you want to go on that trip with your friends next month,
okay,
you're going to need to make sure you're keeping up with your schoolwork.
I like that.
Right?
It connects the thing they want to the thing they need to do.
Exactly. The book also says to avoid those yes or no questions.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Instead, try open-ended questions
that
encourage them to share their thoughts and feelings.
So instead of asking, did you have a good day?
Right.
You could say something like, what was the most interesting thing that happened today?
Yes.
Or what are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most powerful communication tool is just listening.
Oh, that's so true.
Put down your phone, make eye contact, and really focus on what they're saying.
Even if it seems small or frustrating to us.
Exactly.
Because to them it's important, and that shows them that we care.
And the book actually points out that sometimes the best conversations happen when you're not face-to-face.
Oh, interesting.
When you're driving in the car or cooking dinner together or even just hanging out on the couch.
I can see that.
Right.
When there's less pressure, teenagers might feel more comfortable opening up.
Exactly. The book even suggests using humor.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of diffuse tension and make things more relaxed.
A well-timed joke can definitely break down those walls.
Right. But remember, the key is to keep it lighthearted.
Yeah.
Avoid sarcasm.
Good point.
Because they can easily be misunderstood.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And create even more tension.
Definitely.
And it's important to remember that every teenager is different.
Oh, absolutely.
What works for one might not work for another.
We have to find what works for our own kids.
Exactly. And be flexible in our approach.
Flexibility is key.
It really is.
Especially with teenagers.
And speaking of flexibility,
the
book brings up something that I think a lot of parents struggle with.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Letting teenagers make their own mistakes.
Ooh, that is a tough one.
It is.
It's natural to want to protect them from pain.
Right.
Disappointment.
We don't want to see them struggle.
But the book has a good point. Mistakes are how we learn.
It's true.
It's how we grow.
And when we swoop in and rescue them from every little misstep,
yeah,
we're actually robbing them of the opportunity to develop resilience.
Right. They need to learn how to problem solve on their own. Exactly.
So it's finding that balance between supporting them and letting them experience the consequences of their choices.
And that means sometimes we have to bite our tongues.
Oh, it's so hard.
Wow.
Especially when you've seen it coming.
Right.
You tried to warn them.
And you just want to say, I told you so.
But we have to resist.
We do.
Because our role is to equip them with the tools to navigate the world.
Right.
Not to clear the path for them.
It's about raising independent, capable adults.
Yes. Not perpetual children.
And that sometimes means trusting that they'll figure things out.
Even if it means they stumble along the way.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got the basics of this whole subtraction parenting thing, but I know our listeners are probably like, okay, but how do we actually do this?
Right. It sounds good in theory, but putting it into practice with a real live teenager?
Yeah.
It's a whole other challenge.
It is. And I think one of the trickiest parts is communication.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you even have meaningful conversations
right.
with teenagers? It's like pulling teeth sometimes.
It really is.
Parents tell me all the time, it's like talking to a brick wall.
I feel that.
But luckily, this book has some pretty good advice about this.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So one of the things that emphasizes is to remember what we were talking about earlier with the whole teenage brain thing.
Yeah.
That need for instant gratification, the struggle with long-term consequences.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff really comes into play when we're trying to communicate effectively.
It makes sense.
Their brains are literally still developing, so they're not going to process information or react the same way adults do.
Right. So instead of launching into this big lecture about good grades and their future career.
Which, let's be honest, they've probably heard a million times.
Exactly.
The book suggests framing things in a way that's more relevant to their immediate world.
Okay, I like that.
So, like, meet them where they are, Speak their language.
Instead of saying, you need good grades to get into a good college.
Which to them feels like a million years away.
Right. You could try something like, if you want to go to that concert with your friends next month, you're going to need to make sure your grades are up.
Oh, that's good.
Right.
Because that connects what they want to what they need to do.
And the book also suggests that we avoid those yes or no questions.
Oh, yeah. Those are conversation killers.
Totally.
Instead, try asking them questions that are open-ended.
Okay.
That get them to actually share their thoughts and feelings.
So instead of, did you have a good day?
Yeah.
You could say, what was the best part of your day?
Yeah.
Or, what are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Exactly. And sometimes the best thing we can do is just listen.
Oh, that's so hard.
It is. But it's so important.
It is.
Put your phone down, make eye contact, and just really hear what they're saying.
Even if it seems small or silly.
Exactly.
Because to them, it's a big deal.
It shows that we care about what's important to them.
And, the book actually points out that sometimes the best conversations happen when you're not face-to-face.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like when you're in the car together.
Okay.
Or you're doing the dishes. Or just hanging out on the couch.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I think when there's less pressure to, make eye contact,
right,
teenagers might feel more comfortable opening up.
Exactly. And the book even talks about using humor.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of diffuse tension and make things more relaxed.
A well-timed joke can definitely go a long way.
It can.
But it's got to be lighthearted.
Yeah.
Avoid sarcasm.
Right, because that can come across the wrong way.
Definitely.
And we also have to remember that every teenager is different.
Oh, absolutely.
So what works for one might not work for another.
It's all about figuring out what works for your kid.
Right, and being flexible.
And that actually leads perfectly into something else the book talks about.
Okay, what's that?
Letting teenagers make their own mistakes.
Ugh, that is so hard.
I know it is. As parents, our instinct is to protect them. We don't want to see them get hurt or make bad choices.
But the book says that mistakes are actually a really important part of learning and growing.
They are. We all learn from our mistakes.
Right.
And when we try to shield our kids from making them, we're not doing them any favors.
It's true.
They need to figure things out for themselves.
And develop resilience.
Exactly. So it's about finding that balance again. Supporting them, but also giving them space to experience those natural consequences.
And that means sometimes we have to bite our tongues.
Oh, it's so hard.
When they mess up and you just want to say, I told you so.
But we have to resist that urge. We're there to support them and guide them.
Right.
Not to control every single thing.
It's about raising adults.
Yeah.
Not keeping them as children forever.
And that means trusting them to figure things out.
Even if it's messy.
Exactly. Sometimes they need to stumble a little bit.
And learn from it.
Yeah, right. Now, the book also dives into some specific challenges that I think a lot of parents are facing these days.
Okay, like what?
Well, first up, technology.
Oh, yeah.
It's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
It really is. Every parent I know is struggling with screen time and social media.
And setting those healthy boundaries.
Especially in this digital world.
Yeah. And the book acknowledges that, too much screen time can be bad for sleep and schoolwork.
Yeah.
And it can even get in the way of real-life relationships.
That's true.
But they also recognize that just banning technology outright, that's not really realistic.
It's not. It's part of their world.
Right. So it's all about finding a balance.
Right.
Not demonizing technology, but teaching them how to use it responsibly.
So instead of banning it completely,
the
book suggests setting clear guidelines.
Okay.
And actually getting the teenagers involved in creating those guidelines.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Right?
It gives them ownership.
Yes. And of course, we have to model those healthy habits ourselves.
Oh, actions speak louder than words.
So put your phone down at dinner.
Yeah.
Resist the urge to check emails constantly.
Be present.
And create some tech-free zones in your house.
Lead by example.
Exactly.
We're all in this together.
And another big one the book talks about is academic pressure.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, it's so intense for teenagers these days.
Especially with all the competition to get into good colleges.
And just to succeed in general.
It's a lot of pressure.
And the book really emphasizes the importance of talking to our teenagers about their goals.
Okay.
And their aspirations.
Yeah.
Like what motivates them? What are they passionate about?
What do they want to do with their lives?
And sometimes that might mean letting go of our own expectations.
Yeah. Sometimes our vision for them might not match up with their own.
And that's okay.
It is. There are so many different ways to be successful.
And the book doesn't shy away from talking about mental health either.
Oh, that's so important.
I know. Because so many teenagers are struggling with anxiety and depression these days.
It's true.
And the book really encourages parents to seek professional help.
Absolutely.
If they're teenagers showing signs of mental health difficulties.
There's no shame in asking for help.
Right.
It's just as important as taking care of their physical health.
And the book also talks about creating a safe and supportive environment at home.
Yeah.
Where teenagers feel like they can talk about their feelings without being judged.
That's so important.
It is. Sometimes the best thing we can do as parents is just listen with empathy.
Yes.
And offer unconditional love and support.
Remind them that we're there for them no matter what.
And that actually brings me to what I think is one of the most important takeaways from this book.
Okay.
It reminds us that even though the teenage years can be tough, they're also a time of huge growth and transformation.
It's true. They're discovering who they are.
Right.
What they believe in.
Yeah.
What they want to do with their lives.
And it's an honor to be part of that journey.
It is. Even if it's messy and confusing sometimes.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
We talked about communication, technology, academic pressure,
mental health,
and the importance of letting our teenagers make their own mistakes.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that subtraction parenting, it's not a magic formula.
Right.
It's a shift in mindset.
Yeah.
A change in approach. It's about letting go of the need to control everything.
Trusting the process.
And focusing on connection.
Support.
And love.
Yeah, but how do we maintain those connections as our teenagers get older and want more independence?
That's a great question. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in the final part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned.
All right, so we talked about understanding our teenagers, communicating with them, effectively letting them make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
But as they start to want more independence, like, how do we stay connected without like hovering over them all the time?
That's the question, isn't it? It's like this delicate dance between giving them space and staying involved in their lives.
And this book uses this phrase that I really like.
Yeah.
Almost adults.
Almost adults.
Like they're in this weird in-between phase.
Yeah.
Not quite kids, not quite adults either.
And I bet that's just as confusing for them as it is for us.
I think so.
They want freedom, but they still need guidance.
So how do we as parents deal with that?
Right. What's the best approach?
The book suggests that one of the most important things we can do is to start treating them with more respect.
Okay.
And autonomy.
Respect and autonomy.
Even in small ways.
I like that.
Like recognizing that they have their own thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
Their own opinions.
Right. Like they're not little kids anymore.
And it means we have to let go of some of that control.
Ooh, that's hard.
It is.
Yeah.
But we have to trust them to make decisions.
Even if we don't agree with those decisions.
Exactly. Because when we trust them, they learn to trust themselves.
That makes sense.
And when we give them the space to make choices, they learn to own the consequences.
Whether those consequences are good or bad.
Exactly.
It's about teaching them to be responsible for their own lives.
And the book really emphasizes that communication is still so important throughout this whole process.
Yeah.
We have to keep those lines open.
Even when it's tough.
Even when they're giving us the silent treatment or rolling their eyes at everything we say.
Oh, I know those eye rolls.
Yeah.
It's like their superpower.
It really is. But sometimes the best conversations happen in those everyday moments.
Yeah.
Like when you're driving in the car or doing the dishes together.
That's little snippets of time.
Exactly. It's about being present, being a good listener, and letting them know that we're there for them.
No matter what.
No matter what. And speaking of being there, this book actually has a whole section about taking care of ourselves as parents.
Oh, that's so important.
It is.
Because let's be honest,
Yeah.
raising teenagers can be exhausting.
It can be so draining.
Emotionally and physically.
We pour so much energy into them.
We do.
That sometimes we forget about ourselves.
And the book reminds us that self-care isn't selfish.
Right.
It's essential. Like, we can't pour from an empty cup.
If we're running on fumes,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to show up for our teenagers the way they need us to.
We're going to be less patient, less understanding, less everything.
And it also sets a good example for them.
Yeah.
It shows them that taking care of themselves is important too.
So make time for the things that fill you up.
Yeah.
Whether that's getting enough sleep, exercising, connecting with friends, reading a book, whatever brings you joy.
Because when we take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
we create a more peaceful environment for everyone.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this subtraction parenting approach, what's the main thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think it's the idea that parenting teenagers isn't about being perfect.
It's not about checking all the boxes.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection.
It's about showing up every day, doing our best, and believing in our teenagers.
Believing that they're capable of amazing things.
And remembering that they're still learning and growing.
Right. They're going to make mistakes.
But it's okay.
It is. It's all part of the process.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed out there,
Yeah.
just remember you're not alone.
There are resources available.
Yeah.
Communities of support.
And there's always hope.
Even in the midst of those tough moments.
So take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Give yourself some grace.
And trust that you're doing a good job.
Even when it doesn't feel like it.
I think that's great advice.
And don't underestimate the power of love and patience.
Oh, yeah.
And a little bit of humor.
A little laughter goes a long way.
It really does.
Well, this has been such a great conversation.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's a reminder that even though this stage of parenting can be challenging,
Yeah.
it's also filled with so much beauty and growth.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. So I think it's time for us to take our own advice and go connect with the teenagers in our lives.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.